It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me. Craig, shut up. Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So welcome to Season 2 of Reality Check with Craig Price. I am your host, Craig Price, and I'm very excited because this is our Season 2 premiere with our resident movie critic, Alan Cerny of Ain't It Cool News. Now, Alan is here to talk about Oscars, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Actress, Supporting Actress, and Actor. These are the things that we're going to talk about. We're not going to talk about best cinematography or set design because, honestly, if you're not nominated, who cares? Movies are one of the last things we still do as a community. There is nothing more exciting than opening weekend in a packed theater full of people waiting to see a really good movie. Just packed to the gills, and the excitement, you can feel it, and especially when it's a really good movie. When it's really good and like Dark Knight, when we saw that a couple years ago, packed on opening Friday night, it was amazing. And then we have such these emotional attachments to movies that when you start comparing them, over voting on who you think is the best or which movie was the best, people get really strong emotions. And that's half of the fun of the Academy Awards, because it's not only recognizing people who are doing great work, but it's also who got snubbed, and we're going to talk about that. So Alan and I discuss who we think will win, who should win, and who should have been nominated and who wasn't, who got snubbed and who got missed out. It's always fun talking movies with Alan, and he's become a pretty much a regular part of the podcast and will continue to do so as we move on in the future. Before we get to Alan, though, I want some quick housekeeping items. I'm always looking for great guests, and so as I started to experiment at the end of last season, and we'll be doing more in the upcoming episodes, I'm using Skype now. I've gotten it figured out. I know how to use it, so now I can interview pretty much anyone, anywhere they are, as long as they've got a computer and a microphone. Sure, I prefer face-to-face interviews, and I'll always be trying to get them. If you know someone who has a great topic, and has an honest, realistic view to share with people, email me at craig@speakercraigprice.com. I'd love to hear any guest suggestions you might have. If you do have one, make sure you include some way to contact this person. Don't just say, hey, so-and-so would be great, and then leave it there. Say, hey, so-and-so would be great. Here's their email. Here's a phone number. Here's this. Contact them. I'd really appreciate it. As always, you can leave comments on iTunes, which really helps the show's ranking. So if you can go to iTunes, look up Reality Check with Craig Price, and leave a comment or a rating, I'd really appreciate it. Or you can just go to our website, realitycheckpodcast.com. Feedback is always encouraged. The more feedback I get, the better I can help and serve you. So if you can go there and leave a comment or two, I'd certainly appreciate it. But now that that's over with and all the housekeeping's going, and we've got a great season of guests lined up for you, and if you go to realitycheckpodcast.com, you can sign up for the newsletter, and we will tell you the first of every month who's coming out in the weeks ahead. So sit back and enjoy Oscar predictions with movie reviewer Alan Cerny. Is it the Houston Critics Society or the Houston Society of Critics?
Houston Film Critics Society.
Oh, good, because I could be in the Society of Critics.
We all criticize something.
Yeah, it's just assholes in a room yelling
Right.
at shit. What did you think of last year in general?
I thought it was a really strong year. Well, personally, I had a really great year. So I guess I kind of went through because I had a really good year in my personal life. So as a whole, I really enjoyed the films more. But
Well, because a lot of stuff in the personal life was because of films.
Yeah. But I was thinking about this on the way up here. I tend towards genre movies. That's just who I am. I tend for science fiction or horror or action or stuff like that because I think
Nerd. That's all right. We're nerds. I'm nerds. I like that stuff too. But that's the nerd genre. And the action is science fiction.
Yeah.
Little dragons once in a while.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it. But the thing about a genre film is, to me, I think it makes a commentary on life in our modern day in a more interesting way than films like this flat-out dramas like The Descendants or The Help or Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I think it's a more interesting way to look at modern society through a genre film like Rise of the Planet of the Apes. You can see Rise of the Planet of the Apes and think, oh, there's Occupy Wall Street right in there.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Or there's the proletariat rebelling against the rich society. You can see all of that in that movie, and it's a movie about monkeys taking over the world.
And quite frankly, if you look at the primaries, there's monkeys who are trying to take over the world, despite the fact they don't believe in monkeys.
Right.
But I thought it was a good year, and we saw a lot of good stuff. I mean, a lot of the things that I didn't think that were going to be good, like Planet of the Apes, were good. Like X-Men,
Right.
like some of the other things that I've Moneyball. I didn't think. I thought that the book is, as far as I'm concerned, is horribly boring. And
It's really dry.
It's about statistics
Yeah.
and this and that, and then the movie itself, totally different.
Right.
As far as how they did it and how they presented it, so it's more the story of the GM, and it was very good.
Yeah,
Um,
that's like Aaron Sorkin does that. He did that with The Social Network too. The book is pretty good, but Aaron Sorkin really cuts to the heart of it, in his script. And Steven Zalian with him in Moneyball as well. So yeah, I agree with that.
And I didn't see too many disappointing movies. There were a couple here and there, but I kind of walked in knowing. But disappointment is something that we're going to focus on today.
Yeah, there's a really raging disappointing movie that was nominated for Best Picture. We'll get into that.
And for those of you should be able to recognize Alan Cerny's voice by now. This is his third time on the podcast.
Actually, fourth.
It's the fourth time?
Yeah.
Oh, we did a two-parter.
Yeah,
that's right.
So it's the fourth.
So you are on 4 times. You're better than I am. And this is the first podcast of the year. So
Cool.
I really appreciate you coming back.
Cool. I feel honored to be here. That's cool.
Our resident critic. Oh, I'm sorry, resident film critic. I'm the resident critic, but you're going to be back more as often as you can because it's one of the great little. You like the sorbet because a lot of the topics are business and they get kind of heavy on. Sometimes they get more business oriented, but then
Right.
you like to have that every couple of months. You like to this is going to be movies or something I enjoy. We can have some fun with it, and since the Oscars are going to be this week, I definitely wanted to bring you in and talk about a lot of the movies, and we're gonna just run down the big 6, as I
Right.
call them: supporting actress, supporting actor, leading actor, leading actress, director, and best picture. That's the ones because I don't really care about cinematography. I mean, I do when I'm watching.
Right.
Nobody cares about film editing. Except the editors, and I mean,
Except
as
movie
far
geeks like me.
well, yeah, exactly. But I'm talking about we got the regular folks out there. So we're gonna go down the list. We're gonna start off with the weaker ones to the big finish.
Right.
And supporting role and actress. And then let me read them out who they were because half these names you won't recognize right away. But the movies you definitely will. So I want to say Berenice Bejo.
Right.
Yeah, of the artist. That's the black and white movie. It's easy to say that one. What's the black and white movie? The silent one. The people aren't even knowing it's silent.
Yeah.
I heard there's people demanding refunds because they're going in.
England, they were putting up signs at the theater ticket booth saying there is no talking in this film. You will not be able to get a refund if you go see this or something like that. And it's ridiculous. But
people need to know. I mean, they should know when they see the movie that there's. I mean, the commercials and trailers.
Right.
Jessica Chastain with The Help. Melissa McCarthy with Bridesmaids. Janet McTeer was in Albert Nobbs, and Octavia Spencer in The Help. Now, of these 5 ladies, I am very happy to see Melissa McCarthy there.
Yeah, I liked her a lot.
The fact that comedies don't really get a lot of love from the Academy Awards, it's always nice to see that. So it was kind of, especially, and rarely does someone get nominated after taking a dump on screen. When you have massive diarrhea, rarely is that an Oscar. It's a Razzie.
Pretty much.
You're going to get a Razzie. But of those 5, obviously Melissa's my one that jumps out. I don't think she's going to win. But which of those 5, what do you think stands out?
My favorite of those 5. First, we're going to get to each of these awards in the ones that were ignored. And there's an actress that was in The Descendants. Gosh, I can't remember her first name. It's Shalisha or Shanisha something. Woodley is the last name. She plays George Clooney's daughter in The Descendants, and she's amazing, and she was totally shut out. And she's, in my opinion, better than all of these.
And she did, and actually, it was very funny because I was telling my wife when I was watching it, she looks a lot more like Rob Delaney, who is the actor who plays his wife's friend.
Yeah.
I was like, is that his daughter? Because they look so alike, but she was tremendous in that.
Yeah, she should have been nominated flat out.
And they usually love young actresses.
Yeah,
I mean, the supporting category is usually a lifetime achievement or it's a springboard for young actors.
Right. And she's just really great. She felt genuine, and she felt like a real teenager. And maybe she felt so genuine that they didn't think it was much acting. That's a possibility.
And those are Alexander Payne's movies are like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you go back through, he gets it so now. I mean, that's why George Clooney. We'll get to him. I thought he was good in it, but I didn't. As I said, I didn't think it was a stretch because it's so natural. Everything in there was very natural.
Right. I thought she should have been nominated. as far as this group goes, my favorite personal is Bernice Bejo for the artist. I thought she there's something about her in that movie. She's pretty magical in it. She has this kind of a glint in her eye that you could see in movie stars, capitalized movie stars. And even though it's a silent role, she doesn't talk. She puts a lot in her face. She puts a lot in her movement and her expressions, and her personality just shines through. And I thought she was wonderful. That's my personal favorite of these five. The one that's going to win, it's probably a performance that I haven't seen, which is probably Octavia Spencer for The Help. That's what I think is going to get the buzz.
Yeah, and she won the Golden Globe. But
Yeah.
also, my wife was like, I hope she was good because I liked her as the lobster lady in Dinner with Schmucks. She's actually a comedic actress.
Right.
Who is, you see her a lot. I mean, when you see her face, you know her because you've seen her in everything.
Right.
Very funny lady who, I guess, it went serious in The Help. And that seems to be the front runner.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and flat out say it. The Help, of all the movies that are nominated, Help is the one film on, well, that and A Bitter Life are the two films I have not seen. And that's going to be rectified because I have both DVDs at the house, so I'm going to watch them.
And where my wife and I are going to go to the day before the Oscars. They have the big deal. We're going to go see all 9, but we've already seen 4. We're going to see 5 of them. The Help is on the list.
Yeah.
From what I understand, it should be retitled "Revisionist History to Solve White Guilt." It's not a true story, and it's kind of it's gotten some backlash about how naive. I don't know if it's naive. Well, it's inaccurate.
Yeah, and it's a movie. I mean, everybody. I talked to fellow movie critics, and they go, The Help. But I talked to like my family members who've seen it. Mothers-in-law and mothers,
and that's where they
they loved it. And it's probably the crowd favorite of, in my opinion, probably the crowd favorite of the nominees.
Now, Jana Mcteer plays a man or plays a woman who is who acts like a man.
She plays a woman who acts like a man. Yeah.
Yeah. In Albert Nobbs. How does she do? Because I was interested in that. I'm always interested when when Dustin Hoffman has to pretend to be a woman, or when they have to try to do something they have absolutely no sense of reality to. You know what I mean? Because you can't go. You can interview men, but you can't be a man. I can interview women, but I can't be a woman.
Right. Well, she's not bad. She's actually really good in the movie. In fact, in a lot of ways, I thought she was better than Glenn Close. But that's an interesting movie. Albert Nobbs feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be. It certainly wasn't one of my favorites of last year. I didn't like a lot of it because I think that it's a movie that somewhere along the line actors thought, this will be a great film, but it didn't really make it once it got to the screen. But she's really good. Jana Mcteer is very good in it. She has a kind of a spirited performance in it, more so than Glenn Close, who's very subdued. So, I mean, I liked her. I liked her a lot. I don't know if it's nomination worthy, but that might be just my personal taste on that movie. But I mean, she's not bad. And of course, Melissa McCarthy is wonderful in Bridesmaids. And Jessica Chastain, she was in every other film this year. So,
Oh, was she?
She was in a lot. She was in Help. She was in Take Shelter. She was in Tree of Life. She was in a couple other films she was in like 5 movies last year. So it's not so much of her being nominated as which performance to nominate,
And now we've talked about who is on the list and who should win and who is going to win. But in this particular category, is there anybody that they missed out on?
The girl from The Descendants, Woodley. But gosh, let me think. There are lots of. They never get everything right. Chloe Moritz in Hugo, she's really good in Hugo. I liked her quite a bit in that film.
But you think sounds like this one's they got mostly right.
Yeah.
With one glaring exception from The Descendants. But
a pretty big exception because she should nominate and win. I didn't like the film. I hated Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I hated the movie, hated it, and we'll get to that. But Sandra Bullock isn't bad in it. I could see her being nominated, or should have been nominated. She's not bad.
Well, let's move over to the men.
Okay.
And the actor in a supporting role, this one's got a couple surprises in it, but it also has got some people that it's got one surprise in it.
Yeah.
And then 4 rock solid, either former nominees or former winners.
Right.
You got Kenneth Branagh, who played Laurence Olivier in A Week with Marilyn. Now, I've seen him do that impression for years.
I liked him in the movie. I liked
So the fact that him doing a whole movie, no wonder he got nominated. We
Right.
got Jonah Hill with Moneyball. We got Nick Nolte, the Warrior, which was the MMA
Yeah.
fighter. Christopher Plummer, who was the coolest guy in the world. And when I think of a gentleman, what a man should be, gentlemanly.
Right.
That's the picture in my head. The voice, the way he carries himself. He was in The Beginners.
Right.
And then Max von Sydow in Extremely Loud and Incredible Close. So the one that jumps out at me that should not be here, as far as I'm concerned, because I've seen two of these, but I've seen the movie that I saw him at, Jonah Hill. I like Jonah Hill. He's a nice enough guy. He does a good job in comedies. This is his first dramatic role, but it really wasn't really for him. It wasn't really that dramatic. He was the comic relief kind of something.
Right.
But Albert Brooks should be in there instead
Albert
of Jonah
Brooks
Hill
should have been nominated
for Drive.
For Drive. He's amazing in that movie. Albert Brooks is a totally reversal of everything you've expected from him and the movies that he's done. He's a really hateful, mean guy. He's a guy I wouldn't want to mess with. The character he plays in Drive.
Well, he might be like that in real life.
Yeah, he might be.
I don't know. I haven't had a chance to
read
meet
his
him.
Twitter feed. He gets pretty tough sometimes. But yeah, he absolutely should have been nominated. And again, in my opinion, with the people that were nominated, he should win.
So now it just becomes, because I know Jonah Hill's not going to win it.
No.
I mean, if they win in that, then the Oscars have invalidated themselves. I mean, they kind of did just by nominating him. But
Well, we'll get into. I can get into the whole Oscar. How valid are the Oscars in comparison?
they're much more. They're more valid than the Golden Globes.
Yeah,
That's-
they are.
And as far as what's out there,
Uh-huh.
I mean, the SAG Awards, the Screen Actors Guilds, don't stray too far away. They
No,
do,
no.
but I mean, not too far. The
Yeah.
Directors Guilds don't stray too far away.
It's just that I had such a really good movie year, and the movies that I had such a great time with are nowhere on this list.
Well, that's mostly when you get to the masses. It starts
Yeah,
the lowest common denominator. But
Yeah.
but again, as far as awards are out there, they're as far as things go, they're usually at least in the ballpark.
Right.
Where like Golden Globes, they're just whoever showed up to their party.
Right.
Kind of situation. But Kenneth Branagh, how good was his Lawrence?
I liked him. I don't know if it's awards worthy. He frankly isn't in the movie that much, but he does a really good job.
Well,
my
Judi
wife-
Dench won with 9 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's in it more than that. But he does a really good job. He plays Laurence Olivier, and his reactions to Michelle Williams as Marilyn Monroe are great. He plays him really well. He's a director who wants to make his mark. He wants to make a great movie, and he's kind of saddled with making a film for the masses with a Marilyn Monroe movie because she's so popular at the time.
Sounds like Kenneth Branagh and Thor.
Yeah, well, but I kind of don't agree with that because I think Kenneth Branagh, I think Thor is totally in his wheelhouse. I think as a Shakespearean type of story, Thor kind of plays into that. So, he's not bad in My Week with Marilyn. I liked him quite a bit. It's not a really histrionic capital A acting performance. He kind of embodies the part,
Right.
as opposed to being showy about it.
Now, for me, it's going to be Christopher Plummer's award to win. It's going to be a Lifetime Achievement Award. He may have done really well in Beginners, which was a small movie. And Max von Sydow, I mean, that could. I don't think he's going to overwhelm Christopher Plummer. But of those, tell me about those two. About Beginners, where he plays a
Christopher Plummer plays a man who is married to his wife for many years, and she dies, and then he comes out to his son. He was gay the whole time, and his son has to deal with the fact that his dad was gay. And it's not a movie that dwells on his son's. It doesn't dwell on his son so much about his dealing with the fact that his dad was gay throughout his entire childhood. That's kind of an after effect. It's a very quirky film. The guy directed it. His name's Mike Mills, and honestly, I didn't like Beginners. I thought it was, to use the word, I thought it was very twee. And when I say that, I mean it's almost like
that's a new word for me.
Well, when I say something as twee, it's like it's so self-conscious in its writing. It felt so, for lack of a better word, it felt so hipster. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? It's very self-aware kind of writing, and I didn't like it.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink kind of thing.
Well, kind of. It's written like somebody just got. I mean, I don't. I felt bad saying this. It's written like somebody just got out of college and it's their first book. Okay, and they have important capital I important things to say, and
there's no subtlety.
It's not very subtle. And the best way to say these things is to put it in the story and not make the story come at you like that. But he's not bad in it. He's very good, actually.
Well, he's always been good.
Yeah,
I can't think of a bad Christopher Plummer performance.
None. Yeah,
I mean,
he made a great Klingon.
I mean, yeah, he's good in everything. So
Yeah.
I mean, and has he ever won before?
I don't think he has.
I don't think has he been nominated?
I'm not even sure he's been nominated.
Because I know the Golden Globe was the first Golden Globe he ever won, and he's in his 70s, close to 80.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever been nominated.
That's just crazy.
This will be the Legacy Award of the year, but the fact is, Christopher Plummer really was pretty good.
Okay.
And
well, that's good. I like to hear that.
if I look at the awards as they read here, he's probably the best performance of the 5. I like Nick Nolte in Warrior, but man, he goes overboard. In my opinion, I thought it was really overboard.
Is he the cantankerous Nick Nolte that we always see?
He plays father of these two guys. Have you seen Warrior yet?
I have not, but I know quite a bit about it.
Okay, he plays the father of these two MMA fighters, and he's a drunk. And he basically abandoned his family and left everybody on their own.
Didn't he get that with Affliction? Didn't he win that with award with Affliction?
And he comes back trying to get. Well, actually, he doesn't come back. One of his sons comes back to him, asks him to train him because he was a good trainer. He's a drunk, but he's not a drunk anymore, and now he's kind of found AA, and he's found God, and he's trying to get his life back on track. And then suddenly Tom Hardy comes back in his life and says, "Hey, I want you to train me. And by the way, you're a really crappy dad." And
I want you to do me a favor.
Yeah.
But first, I want to tell you how horrible you are.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
how I get my favors done for me.
Exactly. And he kind of
I insulted you several times to get you on the show.
Nick Nolte is he's good in it. But there's moments where it's just, over the top, showy performance.
Well, I think Nick Nolte for me is going in the same realm that Al Pacino did.
Uh-huh.
Al Pacino is now he can still act because he did a great job in the miniseries or the movie on HBO about Kevorkian. So
I love that movie.
So he can still act, but a lot of the times he phones it in and does his Al Pacino.
Yeah.
He does that, and Nick Nolte kind of gets that. Nick Nolte. So it's like, did he kind of go out of that comfort zone?
I don't think it was a phoned-in performance. He's not bad. He's
Well,
better
it's not phoned in because he got a deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, is it still in that realm of my wheelhouse is to be a cranky old guy?
Not exactly. He actually is really good in the quiet moments. It's the parts where he's required to get loud, are the parts that I kind of didn't care for. But in the quiet moments of the film, as he embodies the character, are the best stuff.
And Max
von Sydow plays a man who does not talk. He plays.
Yes, he's got the yes and no on the.
He plays
on each hand.
He plays an older gentleman who lives in this apartment.
He plays an older gentleman, really.
Yeah.
He's like 900 years old.
Yeah, really. He lives in this apartment across the street from the main character of the film. The movie is about 9/11 and the repercussions and the things that happened during 9/11 because the main character is a little boy who loses his dad when the towers fall, and he forms this relationship with this little boy. And goes around town trying to find the secret to this key that this little boy has that he thinks is some message from his dad from beyond the grave. He's not bad in it either. It's not a big moment. He never talks in the film. I don't think he ever talks once in the movie. He might at the very end. I can't remember. It's one of those, again, it's one of those performances that seem geared toward Oscar.
Oscar bait?
Yeah.
You can say it.
And,
Oscar bait.
Yeah, and he's not bad in the movie, but it's very, very conscious that it's a awards movie, and he's running for the nomination, and it's a shame because Max von Sydow is really one of the great actors of our time.
He's good. I mean, he's had some clunkers though. Unlike Plummer, I can pick out a couple Max von Sydow clunkers because he also by sheer volume.
Yeah,
he's like Christopher Lee.
He's been in Ingmar Bergman films. He's been in some of the greatest movies of all time. So
but he's also been in some of the crappiest things you've ever saw. So by sheer volume, he's got hit and miss stuff.
Yeah. Because he was in everything for a long time.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously he's from The Exorcist. It's one of the great iconic performances of all time for Father Merrin, and then he's in The Seventh Seal and a lot of great films. And in this one, it's not a movie I would have probably put him up for nomination for, but I could see why they did it. But it's going to be Christopher Plummer's to win this year. Yeah. He's going to take that award.
He should win it, and Will win
I
it.
think he should win it,
He
and I
should win
think
it,
he
he
will
will
win
win
it.
it.
And of course, but if Albert Brooks was nominated, he would be the should and will win for me.
But he's in the ain't category.
Yeah, again.
So so they missed Albert Brooks. Is there any other big names that are missed? Because with
Yes.
Michael Fassbender,
Well,
I don't know if he's a supporting character in. I mean, I thought he was fantastic at X-Men. I mean,
X-Men,
I don't.
he's great.
They're never going to nominate anything in X-Men, but he was so good in that movie
yeah,
as
he
a
was.
supporting
He's
character.
very, very believable.
He's also been in a couple other things that this year that I think this last year was
this
his
is
breakout year.
We'll get to him. We'll get to him
Yeah.
because he's been he's kind of knocked to the side too. There is one big name missing here, and a lot of people know that he's should have been nominated, even though the special effects may have been the acting part, and that's Andy Serkis from Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And he should have totally been nominated. That performance was one of the best of the year. I don't care what people say. I saw.
Will he be a lead or supporting?
No, I would put him supporting.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I would put him supporting, and because that movie doesn't really have a lead. But I mean, you've seen him before and after shots in some of the making of stuff of that movie, and that's Andy Serkis. That's him. He's just working. It's basically a mask, but he's acting. That's a real performance. That's not computer stuff.
I agree with you, but I also reality. That's not going to happen at least until there's probably an entire category. Like, remember how it took so long to get animation?
Maybe, but I don't think that. I don't think that's right. I think he acted. I think
an honorary. I think they're going to have to at some point give him either an honorary Oscar.
He's Lon Chaney. He's our Lon Chaney of this generation.
He's more than Lon Chaney because Lon Chaney, at least, I mean, there was other people doing what Lon Chaney was doing, not as good.
Yeah,
but Andy Serkis was kind of the one guy that everyone goes to.
Yeah.
For CGI motion capture.
I mean,
in fact, he owns a company that does this now.
Uh-huh.
He's such an expert.
He's amazing. He's amazing in that movie. It's a movie.
They're going to have to give him an honorary. They have to at some point in the next 5 years.
Yeah, if
take
they
a moment to give him an honorary Oscar just because of the leaps and bounds that. Because when people see what you can do, it allows other people to do it as well.
Right, but I mean, you can't do
Discount.
that performance without him.
No.
The computers have to have something to work off of, and they work off a great performance.
And that might be the other issue is that it's not just him; it is 150 animators who not take what he does, but they also they add to it. They make it look as real as possible. Because him doing that in 1988 with a computer would be awful looking.
Yeah.
So I think it might be because there's just so many people involved in the final product for his.
Yeah.
I think he's screwed that way. I think he deserves it. He's getting better as far as the acting goes because I've seen him act. Yeah. He's
not bad.
He's
but
not bad. But
there's
but when he does Gollum, when he does these King Kong, when he does these CGI characters, because he doesn't have to. We get more disbelief with what he's going to do.
Right.
He's got a lot more leeway as far as acting.
Yeah, I could see
He
that.
does a great job.
I could see that.
But
But I
think
still think he should have been nominated.
I think so too. But I don't think that's going to happen for quite a while.
Right.
All right, let's get to the big ones. We've got actress in a leading role, and that's Glenn Close in Albert Nobbs, Viola Davis in The Help, Rooney Mara, the girl with the dragon tattoo, Meryl Streep, the Iron Lady, and Michelle Williams, A Week with Marilyn.
Yep.
Now, right off the bat for me, that the name that jumps out is I think it's Meryl Streep's to win.
I think so.
And I haven't seen it. I've seen a lot of clips from it, but I also know Meryl Streep.
Yeah. Well, she's really, really, really good in that movie.
And that's all people say because they say the movie is historically inaccurate. It's not that good.
a good movie. She's just really good in it.
Yeah,
it's not a terrible movie. I don't even mean to say it's
But
terrible.
it's just not a great movie.
It's not great. But she's really good in it. She pretty much embodies Margaret Thatcher. And I mean, Meryl Streep can do this stuff. She knows she's one of our greatest actresses, all time.
This is her 17th, I think, nomination.
Yeah, and actually, it's been a while since. Well, no, she was nominated for Julia.
Yeah,
right?
she's been nominated twice in the last couple years.
She hasn't won in almost 20 years, I think.
Yeah.
But she's wonderful in the movie. Her performance is great. The movie is but the performance is great. And out of all of these performances, I probably would pick her as my personal favorite of them. Although I like Rooney Mara a lot in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, even though the movie isn't very good either. She's not bad.
You know what? I thought was it Numa? What's the
Noomi Rapace?
Yeah, the person Numa Rapace who did the original was a lot better.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Now I've seen movies that have been remade and the remake was better, but in this case, to recreate a character that's only been a couple years,
right,
and actually not do it as well as the original. I was shocked to see her name on there.
Yeah, I mean, I could see why she'd be nominated. I actually did like her performance. I don't think the movie is all that, but I did like her performance in it. Michelle Williams surprised me with
I'm hearing great things about
with
that.
My Week with Marilyn.
And in fact, we talked about that in the holiday podcast.
I liked her quite a bit. I liked her quite a bit in that. She's not. Who can be Marilyn Monroe? That's a hard character person to live up to. I mean, only person could be Marilyn Monroe is Marilyn Monroe, but she cuts
very existential of you.
Yeah. She
I like we're getting right into the philosophy stuff too.
Yeah, she gets to the heart of the character though. She finds that really sensitive moment in the character that makes it work, and she's really good in it. And again, I haven't seen The Help, so I can't really comment on Viola Davis. I have seen Albert Nobbs and Glenn Close. Again, it's one of those performances that's Oscar bait. You can see why they chose it.
But she's been trying to get this made for 20 years.
I know, but
I don't know if that's Oscar bait after about 5.
It might be, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It may be a passion project for her.
And I think it is. It may be her Battlefield Earth. Sorry,
Battlefield Earth. God,
it might because I mean, John Travolta loved that and wanted to bring it, and he worked hard to get that. And I know she worked real hard for years to get that to the screen. And
it's a very subdued kind of Merchant Ivory performance. She's good, but she is outacted by Jana Mcteer. She is outacted by her. But at the same time, it's a very subdued role. This is a very quiet person who doesn't talk. She's really afraid people are going to find out who she is. So she's very quiet, and then she finds a love in her life, and she doesn't know how to express herself because she's kind of trapped in this role. She's not bad in it. It probably could be an Oscar-worthy performance, but I think that she's outperformed by, when you're outperformed by your supporting actress who takes away the spotlight from you in your movie, that kind of takes away from your performance as well.
Well, in my opinion on that situation is that sometimes the supporting roles are allowed to go chew scenery more.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of great performances are overlooked.
Yeah.
Because they weren't chewing the scenery.
Yeah. I'll give you an example of that. Personally, I think Tom Cruise is amazing in Jerry Maguire. I think he's amazing in that movie. I think it's a stunning performance. People don't realize it because Cuba Gooding Jr. steals all the light, Mm-hmm. But it's actually a really good performance from a guy who's kind of losing his grip, and Tom Cruise does it really well. I think it's one of his best performances. I don't think he gets a lot of credit for it, and I could see that. In something like Albert Nobbs.
And usually, like supporting it, there's going to be some wild, crazy. You had people going to the bathroom and toilet and sinks. You've got people who don't speak. Who are because they got little words on their hands and they kind of. I want to say supporting, even though there's a lot of great supporting.
Yeah,
I
don't want to disparage Jana Mcteer's performance. She really is really good.
No, you said she's good.
She's really good. I'm not trying to say,
but
that
it just overshadowed Glenn.
Yeah, it overshadowed her. What can you do?
And who are you missing out of this one? Who's missing?
Oh, man. The person, again.
And you can go with more than one, because I know that one jumps to mind. But
Tilda Swinton from We Need to Talk About Kevin should have been nominated, should win. They should give her every award that they can give her. She is amazing in that movie. It is the singular best performance of the year that I saw. And the fact that she's in a horror film, the fact that she plays a not very sympathetic character, and she is so good, stunningly good, amazingly good, and she should be here. She should be here. I would have dropped any of these to get her into that nomination.
I heard Charlize Theron was one of the ones that they
I liked her a lot in Young Adult. I liked her a lot.
Just like Patton Oswalt, they said should have been in a supporting actor.
Patton should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He's great, too. He's really quiet in that movie. You would think that a comedian like Patton Oswalt would be playing an over-the-top kind of character, but he's not. He's actually fairly subdued. But if you've seen a movie of his that he did called Big Fan, Big Fan is awesome.
Yeah, and
he's great in that movie. God, he's so good.
But was the Charlize? I thought she did a good job in that. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure, but that's the one name I've heard out there that was a snub.
Yeah,
do you agree with that?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I've saw better performances than her last year. I think a lot of it's due to the writing. It is a good performance. It's about it's one of those movies where the main character doesn't learn anything at the end, which is I always love.
Oh yeah, it's Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, I love movies that are obviously with their message, and that the main character totally does a flyby on them, and
because that happens in real life.
Yeah, that's what happens in real life. Yeah, and she's really good in it. I would have nominated her. I think I would have figured out a place to put her. 5 sometimes isn't enough, but Tilda Swinton, all over the map. If you haven't seen We Need to Talk About Kevin, if it's playing in your area, go see it. It's an awesome, awesome movie.
Anybody else that jumps to your mind?
Not really.
That's all right.
I'm thinking maybe Bernice Bejo might have been moved to supporting to Best Actress because she's in the movie a lot. It's the main woman's role in the film.
Well, that's the weird thing is that sometimes you sit there and you go, and the main person ends up being the supporting role.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they decide what's what. Is it by length of time? Is it more of like whose names in the?
I think that it
credits?
really is in the supporting, the word supporting, and that they're the ones who boost the other performances. They're the ones, and I could see how they could see that with her in the artist, but I thought she was more of a main character. Another person that could have been nominated for this is Jessica Chastain for Take Shelter and The Tree of Life, both of those because she's the main woman role in those movies, and both of those are great performances from her.
But I'm sure the people that voted for her for The Help,
nominated
for The Help, said, "Well, she's got one, so we'll leave her. She wasn't so outstanding that she deserves 2."
Yeah. And she's new to the scene, so they might not have felt like she was going to put her in every award that they could give her.
Actor in a leading role.
Yeah.
Move on. Now, there's some people I have no idea who they are. That'd be Demian Bichir.
For A Better Life.
A Better Life. We got George Clooney of The Descendants. We got Jean Desjardins from The Artist. Old mainstay Gary Oldman, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and Brad Pitt, Moneyball.
Right.
Looks like we've got 2 beloved superstars.
Yeah.
Which is always good. It's always good to have mainstream movie stars who are good. Because we have a lot of mainstream movie stars who suck.
What would be funny for me is if they did because they're such good friends, it would be funny for me if Clooney and Pitt kind of did like a YouTube video or something before the Oscars, and it shows them in this dank garage, and they're, and then Brad Pitt says the first rule is we don't talk about this, and they start to fight.
The first rule of Oscars is don't talk about Oscars.
Yeah, that's right.
But the 2 foreign actors, that's the best way I can say it.
Damian Bashir, I believe, is he's a Hispanic actor for A Better Life, and then Jean Desjardins is a French actor for The Artist. Of these 5, let's go with who will probably win, and I think it's going to be George Clooney to win.
Right. I believe that too, only because again, he's the beloved. I mean, they're going to vote for him. He did a good job.
Yeah,
no doubt about that. The Descendants, he was very good in it. Mm-hmm. For me, I didn't see it much of
George Clooney is he's one of those actors, man, that comes along once, Redford, or you could say Errol Flynn, or you could say he's just one of those actors that comes along that's just a sheer movie star.
Yeah.
Clark Gable, and he picks roles that kind of accentuate his movie star status, and yet he doesn't play a movie star in his movies. It's like in The Descendants, he's great, but it's never a moment in the movie where you're not watching George Clooney. He's just that iconic now, and
Brad Pitt's the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but Brad Pitt actually can get into a character a little better than George Clooney. Brad Pitt's played really whacked out characters, and he's even played with his own image a little bit in some of the movies he's made. George Clooney has too, but he's never not a movie star. He's always going to be
George Clooney.
Yeah, and when you see him in a movie, you're not seeing, and I hate to say this because he is a good actor. He's a really good actor, but you're not seeing a character. You're seeing George Clooney in a character, and it's not his fault. That's just where he is in his career now, and in The Descendants, he's quite good. It is an interesting role for him. He plays a father who is trying to deal with a lot of tragedy in his life. He's trying to raise his 2 daughters, and his wife is in a coma, and she cheated on him, and he's trying to deal with that, and he's trying to deal with a whole bunch of other family stuff, and it's a hard role to play, and he manages to do really well. And I would totally have nominated him for Best Actor, totally. I don't think I would have picked him to win, but I could see him winning.
Okay. Well, he's the will win.
Yeah.
Then we'll go to the shoulds, because I saw Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yeah.
And Gary Oldman was fantastic in it.
Mm-hmm.
and he also plays against type for him. Because when we see him, I mean, now that he's getting older, he's Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to, but he's no longer, Sid and Nancy. He's no longer going, Count Dracula. He's not these crazy, over the top, gotta really,
Right.
I'm acting kind of thing.
Yeah, but
in this, he is so subdued. It's
Yeah.
almost like he took whatever motor that he normally does and just shut it down, just turned off. Not that he's vacant. He's just so subdued and so British.
He put it
so
behind.
British
He
in
put
this
it
movie.
behind the eyes. And that's hard for an actor to do, to put it behind the eyes when you could look at them in a scene, know what they're thinking, and they don't say a word, or they don't even make any big sudden movements or anything. They just you could see what's passing in their thoughts. He's amazing in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. That's a hard movie to watch, and I'm not saying it's hard as an emotionally wrenching or anything. It's just it's
slow.
It's difficult. It's complicated. It's not. It doesn't.
You can't go if you were watching it at home. You couldn't go to the bathroom because when you come back, you're going to be lost.
Dude, if you get lost in an Adam Sandler movie, this movie is not for you. It's not for you.
Well, if you get lost in an Adam Sandler movie, no movies are for you. You shouldn't watch movies. You shouldn't pay the money. You should just
as one of his movies says, you're dumber for having actually watched it.
Yeah.
But Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is not a dumb movie. It's got a lot of plot threads, a lot of characters to keep up with. It's really, really good.
and then it's non-linear.
Yeah,
so if you're not paying attention,
it's
next thing you
nonlinear,
know,
yeah.
the next scene you're
15
years behind.
I normally love nonlinear films, and I love when they jump around in time. I had problems with this one because I wasn't sure. Wait a minute, I thought that guy was dead.
Yeah.
and it was a little complicated.
The first couple times you do get kind of messed up, but then
it's
then
a
you
movie
start
that-
realizing, oh, they're going to do this.
Yeah, it's
So-
a movie where probably repeat viewing is probably something you have to do. But Gary Oldman's really good in it. He's probably my favorite of the nominees. I will. In the interest of clarity, I will say I have not seen A Better Life yet. A Better Life is a movie that is directed by the guy who I can't remember his name right now. Chris Weitz. He directed About a Boy. He's one of the guys who was a co-writer of American Pie for the first American Pie. One of the directors of all people. And A Better Life is an immigration story about a man who's trying to find a better life for him and his son. And something in the film happens. I believe he gets his truck stolen and it totally wrecks him because he doesn't have any way to get around.
It's a huge part of his income.
And it's Damian Bashir is amazing in the film, from what I'm told. I haven't seen it. I've got it at the house.
It's a very small movie,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't think it ever would go massive even
Yeah.
after all this. It's just very difficult.
It played right before all the summer movies hit, so obviously it was going to get forgotten. It opened like in I think it opened the week before Fast and Furious opened, and after that movie came in, Fast 5. I mean, after that movie came in, all the summer movies were in, and little movies like that just totally get missed.
Yeah, they're counter programming, and
Yeah.
they're just happy if they can get their money back.
Yeah.
Last one on there. Well, we talked about Brad Pitt. I thought he was okay in that particular movie.
Yeah, he's good in it, but a lot of that is the script. The script
Right.
is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in that movie. And Brad Pitt again, he's playing with his imagery, his iconography. But he's not bad in the performance. I don't think I would have gone so far as to nominate him.
Yeah, no. And then Jean Dujardin.
Jean Dujardin is really good in The Artist. It's a silent performance. It doesn't have any dialogue except for a little bit later, but that's one of those performances. A lot of these are movie star performances, and although he's not a well-known movie star here over here in the United States, in France he is a very big movie star.
What's his equivalent? Who would
Well,
he be?
basically
He's not
the-
the Harrison Ford of France.
No, but basically the two films that he's done before this were with the same director, and they're James Bond spoofs, but I don't like to use the word spoof because they're really genuinely good spy movies.
But the homage.
But they're kind of homage, but they're kind of because they're comedies too.
Yeah.
They're funny. They're called the OSS films, and he's the main star in that. And he's really good in those. But
the Ben Stiller of France.
kind of,
I
but
don't
no,
know.
not really. I mean,
Trying to think of
he
somebody
has
he's not
this,
the Adam Sandler.
Yeah, he has this silent film thing going in The Artist, and it's one of those performances that it's like standing on the shoulders of giants. It kind of reminds you of Gene Kelly, or it kind of reminds you of Clark Gable, even though those aren't silent actors. It's a silent role, and he puts a lot of it in his physicality and his expressions, and it people might think that might be hard. I mean, people think that might be easy without the dialogue, but it is pretty hard.
Nowadays, I would
know.
imagine since it's been so long
Yeah.
that people have seen silent movies that
Yeah.
to get it to play
Yeah.
as well as it does now, it's got to be tremendously difficult.
Yeah.
Because you could very easily go super silly and then lose everybody.
Right. Yeah. He's really good in it. If I wasn't personally rooting for Gary Oldman in this list, I'll probably be rooting for him. And the thing about The Artist is, well, we'll get to that one because that's actually pretty much the front runner, and I'll get to that in a bit. But the thing about The Artist is, I think a lot of critics have unfairly derided it because it is the front runner, and it might be on its surface level kind of a slight movie because it doesn't make any big commentary about cinema or anything. It is a silent film, and it just embodies it because that's what it is. But it's and a lot of critics liked The Artist, but they didn't think it was awards worthy. I disagree. I do think it is awards worthy, but we'll get to that. He's really good in it. He's really good in it. I think that he deserved to be nominated.
All right. And I know I know two. I can name two people that should be on this list that overlooked that you would definitely agree with should be there.
Yeah.
The biggest one, as far as acting wise, I think it might be Michael Fassbender for Shame.
As far as acting wise, the biggest one.
Shame.
Yeah.
Well, now you're getting into George Clooney penis jokes. But I mean, as far as quality of acting. From what I understand, it's probably the best performance of the year.
It was the best
but it's in an
performance of the year.
NC-17 movie.
An NC-17 movie that nobody's going to see.
Right.
But it was the best performance of the year. Michael Fassbender in Shame, he plays a sexual addict. He's a businessman who works in New York City, and when he's not working, he's chasing tail, and he's going on the internet and doing all sorts of horrible things. I mean, not horrible to people, but he's just driven by a sexual drive. He's it's all he is id. And then his sister comes to town, and you can tell, obviously, that something happened between the two in their past, or something happened in their family in the past, because there's a conflict there that's unspoken in the movie. They never say what it is. It's always left to the audience to interpret. But the performances, and Carey Mulligan's another one who could have been nominated for Shame for Best Actress. Because of the relationship between the two, he is forced to kind of deal with his own issues in the movie. It's an NC-17 movie, and it's very explicit about sexual relations. It's got a lot of nudity in it. It's not a movie for kids. It's definitely a grown-up film, and because it's grown-ups, and because we're Americans who can't look at a penis on screen and without pointing and giggling at it these days.
Did everybody point and giggle at the theater you were at?
I actually saw it on a screener, so I didn't have to see it like that. But
so the kids didn't come in and
because that's just the way American mentality is right now, unfortunately. It's in a movie that never was probably going to be picked for this, and unfortunately, that's a shame, pun intended, I guess, because he's terrific in the film. He's amazing. Again, it's kind of funny. The Houston Film Critics Society, which I work for.
Well, the next one is I think the next person you're going to get to is Ryan Gosling.
Yeah,
Drive.
Yeah.
Now, is that who that you guys?
Well, no, we actually picked all the people that we picked for Best Supporting Actress, Actor, Best Actress, and Best Actor. They all got snubbed. None of them got nominated for anything.
Well,
and it's a shame because again, using that word, because they're amazing, and Michael Fassbender's amazing. Ryan Gosling, I loved him in Drive. I don't think it rose to the level of being an awards performance because
I mean that's the one I hear that or the Ides of March.
He's really good in the Ides of March,
but I think it's just more they're just happy that they got another young handsome person who can act.
Yeah, that's possible, but I mean he's good in that. I don't think he's. Well, again, he's amazing in a lot of films. He's been nominated before, and so he's amazing in the films. That he's an amazing actor. I don't think Drive is that kind of movie. Well, I'll take that back. Drive is a totally great movie to be nominated for awards. I don't think that performance was. No. But Michael Fassbender should be nominated, and again, he probably should win over all of these people.
And anybody else that we might have missed? Because I know the actor category is usually the big one that a lot of people stomp over.
Brad Pitt is nominated for Moneyball when he should have been nominated for Tree of Life.
So he's good in the Tree of Life.
He's great in Tree of Life. He plays a father to these kids, and takes place in the 50s. And he plays a stern, taciturn father who's trying to, make a living. He's a salesman. He's trying to make a living, and he's not doing so well. And he kind of takes it out on his kids, and he doesn't mean to. You could see it's a complicated performance for a father. It's probably realistic in that you see so many abusive parents,
It's all or
movies.
nothing. And
it's
like,
all or nothing.
It's a
but
horrible
not
person
like
with no
that.
redeeming qualities.
Yeah, it's not like that in reality. Everybody knows that. And even when there's an abusive parent, they still, in their way, love you. And he's not an abusive as in beats the crap out of his kids. It's not that kind of an abuse. It's very emotional. But at the same time, he loves his kids. You can see it in him. It's a complicated performance, and he probably should have been nominated for that.
Well, we're going to get to directing. And Best Picture are pretty much tied together. Go ahead.
Can we go back to supporting actor for a brief
Yeah,
moment? I want to call somebody out.
Call him out.
Ben Kingsley for Hugo should have been nominated.
Ben
too.
Kingsley was great in that movie.
Yeah, he should have been nominated for that. Anyway,
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
And again, maybe it's one of those things where we've seen Ben Kingsley so often that we take him for granted.
yeah,
And so they probably went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But he really he pushed that movie along. He did a great job.
yeah.
Directing. Now, everyone here who's a director has a Best Picture, which is not always the case. But in this case, we've got the artist, which you're going to have to help me with the name.
Michelle
Hazanavicius.
I can't pronounce it either. Don't worry.
Michelle.
Michelle.
The artist. It's French, so we Americans don't know how to say it.
No.
The Descendants with Alexander Payne. Hugo with Martin Scorsese. Midnight in Paris with Woody Allen. And Tree of Life with Terrence Malick. Now, for me, as an outside person, the one that jumps out at me is Tree of Life because I heard from the critics it's such a polarizing, either they loved it or they hated it.
Tree of Life.
I heard it was either the most spectacular thing in
love Tree of
cinematic
Life.
history,
Adored
or
that
it
movie.
was a
Yeah.
train wreck.
I wouldn't go so far as to call it a train wreck. I think even its detractors saw it as an interesting failure to them. I think Tree of Life's amazing. It was made my top 3, and it's a movie that isn't easy to watch. It's a movie that's very long. It goes off into the stratosphere in totally different random tangents. Seemingly random tangents. They're not, but for it's heavy lifting for audience. A main audience member who just wants to see stuff blow up. It's definitely heavy lifting for them. It's not a movie they would enjoy.
Now, Terrence Malick doesn't make a lot of
No.
movies. I mean, actually, he's probably making more in this decade.
He's very
than
productive now. He's got 3 films in production right now. But before, he has a lot of space between films. Before Tree of Life, he did a movie called The New World, and then he did The Thin Red Line, and there's like a space between 7 years of those movies. And then before that, he did a movie back called Badlands,
that was
a
like
long time ago.
70s, 80s, right?
The 70s. And he has a long space between films, but he is considered one of the greatest American filmmakers. And Tree of Life is wonderful. He's my personal favorite of all of these to win. And I love Martin Scorsese. He's one of our greatest directors. Terrence Malick, he's never won. I don't think he's ever won an Oscar. I might be wrong on that. I'm not as keen on Oscar awards as I'd like to be, but he should win for this. I think he's amazing. All of the directors here, I think, did really great work. I don't really have a complaint about anybody here, except of a snub, which we'll get to. But Michelle Hazanavicius for the artist, and I know I mangled that.
That's all right. He's not listening. And if he is, email me and I will we'll dub it in.
We'll get you on the
We'll
get you on the
dub it in.
podcast.
It'll be like, and his name is Michael Hazanavicius. It will just
right. The artist is, watching a silent film is not like watching a film with dialogue. You paying attention because your other senses are not being used, so you kind of pay attention to everything that you see visually. That's really hard to do. And he didn't just make an homage to silent films. He made a silent film. You could take the artist and probably transplant it back in the days of the 20s and watch it then, and it would probably make perfect sense, except for a couple of key moments. But I think a lot of critics give the artist kind of a low opinion because it doesn't have anything to say about silent cinema. It just is silent cinema.
It's just another. It's a silent movie.
Yeah, and that's too bad because it is really good. And he won the Directors Guild Award, so he's probably going to win this.
Okay, because for me, I mean, it's one of the popular movies, but it's also, I mean, the way 3D is done nowadays, there's only 2 ways it's done.
Yeah.
Either horrible, like Clash of the Titans,
Yeah.
or amazing, like Avatar.
And Hugo is even better use of 3D than Avatar.
And you have to get these visual masters like Scorsese, like James Cameron.
Yeah.
because anybody
Or
else
Spielberg.
but any other one, anybody else, it's just
Yeah,
awful.
I think that if anything has proven the point this year that 3D is best left to the professionals.
Yes.
That it's Martin Scorsese and Hugo and even Spielberg for 10/10. Hugo's magnificent looking. It uses 3D in a way that no other 3D film has used it before. It uses it thematically. And that it's a movie about cinema and the possibilities of cinema to transform. And it uses 3D as a possibility to transform. And movies don't do that in a way that, Scorsese just shot a beautiful movie.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Amazing movie.
And I think it's a toss-up between the artist and Hugo for
Yeah.
one other main reason, is that they're both movies about movies.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
movie people love
Movies.
patting themselves on the back.
That may be true, but I think movie people, especially people like myself, love to have films show everyone how important movies are. They are important. They are a part of the American vocabulary. They're part of the cultural vocabulary. And I think Hugo is a perfect example of that. Hugo talks about George S. Méliès and his A Trip to the Moon, which everybody knows because everybody's seen it.
Seen the picture, yeah.
Everybody knows what it is, but they never knew where it was from or what it was about and how it came to be. And that's a movie about silent cinema and how cinema became our magic. It's basically magic. And I always thought movies were magic. And this movie just accentuates the point. Hugo's a wonderful film. Wonderful film.
Well, the last two we haven't talked about are The Descendants.
Well, we haven't talked about Midnight in Paris either.
Well, that's the last two,
Yeah,
Descendants and Midnight in Paris. But Descendants, we've got... And I thought it was a very well-done movie.
Alexander Payne doesn't make movies that are, those camera swoops and they're very showy. He makes movies about people. And I like The Descendants a lot. I like Sideways a whole lot more. Sideways is an amazing movie with Paul Giamatti.
About the wine and the...
Yeah, it's great. And that's certainly a movie that should have been recognized at the time. But I like The Descendants. Again, The Descendants is a movie that I would have no problem nominating for these things, but I don't think it should win. It's a strong movie. I think the performances are great. There's nothing wrong with The Descendants. Whenever I nominate something whenever I have something in my Best Picture in my mind, it's got to be above and beyond everything I've seen.
Yeah, and this seems like it's
not.
It's not above and beyond. It's above, but I don't know. It's not a beyond.
It's not a beyond. You're right, and that's the best way to describe it. It's above, but it's not beyond.
And Midnight in Paris, I have not seen this because my wife does not allow me to. She's going to have to sit through it, but she does not go see Woody Allen films.
Midnight in Paris
for his personal reasons. It's
It's
the only person that she does not go see. Well, besides Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
I've gotten past that. That doesn't bother me. But so I haven't had a chance to sneak out and see it myself.
Right.
So that's why I haven't seen it, because the Woody Allen is kind of creepy to her, and so she doesn't want to support that.
Well,
but Midnight in Paris seems like it's another one of those Woody Allen movies where
It isn't.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm asking, because I'm setting it up so you can correct me.
It's a fantasy. It's about a guy who's a writer. He's married to this woman who you could tell he doesn't really, or he's going to get married to her. You can tell that they have little issues in their relationship. But he's a writer. He wants to.
Well, that'll get better once he's married.
Yeah, he goes with his family to Paris, and he just loves Paris. He loves the entire past of Paris. He kind of is Jones for nostalgia, And one night he's walking through the streets of Paris. This old cab comes up to this old car and tells him to get in. He goes in and he goes back in time. He goes back in time in the 20s. And it's every night he goes back in time and meets all these great characters like Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda Fitzgerald and Salvador Dali. And he gets to have fun with all these characters. And it's a movie about nostalgia and how nostalgia, although it's wonderful to think about, can be a trap. And to live in the present is more engaging than to live in the past. And it's a really good film. Woody Allen, it's Woody Allen's most financially successful film, interestingly enough. Maybe not geared. Annie Hall might be there, but it's a movie
it did very well, which is unusual lately for him.
Yeah, for him, it did very well.
Hannah and Sisters did very well too.
Yeah,
so.
it may be because Owen Wilson's the star and he's kind of a fairly popular actor. And but it's a good film and it's really well written. Woody Allen, man, he can. I'm a big fan of Woody Allen as an artist. I understand.
I am too. I like
stuff.
His comedy was unbelievable, and
yeah.
then his movies were fantastic till the '90s, in the late '90s.
Yeah, but
they get the hiccups. Everyone has the hiccups.
For someone like him, he's incredibly prolific. Where a lot of people just have movies that just don't work. He has a better ratio of movies that work to don't. There's a movie that he did a couple of years ago called Match Point. Oh my God, that's an amazing movie, amazing film. It's a thriller, interestingly enough, and it's a movie about moral quandaries, and it's really great. And then he has other movies that just aren't as artistically successful. Well, the if you want to call anything a kind of a crowd pleaser, Midnight in Paris is actually the closest. It's not a difficult movie to understand or watch. It's really enjoyable. It's really got really great performances. It's got really great writing, and I think he deserved to be nominated.
Well, then, was there anybody that, as a director, jumped out that they should have put in there?
Nicholas Winding Refn for Drive.
Okay, well,
Nicholas Winding. Well, you're gonna put Drive on every damn one of these.
I know you are. That's you really love Drive. I thought Drive was great.
Yeah,
I like the fact that it wasn't one of these flashbang, zip, 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 cut, edit, smash, edit. This is going everything's. It was It was well paced, which is refreshing and it was kind of an action movie. There was a lot of action in it, but it wasn't so jammed in your face.
It was capital C cool.
Yes,
it was a cool movie, and it seems to be something effortless, and it's not. The way a mood in a movie is really hard to pull off, especially when a director is detached from the film after so long. It's really hard to pull a mood off, and that movie is just cool from the very beginning to the end of it. It's just a great film. It may not have anything to say about the human condition as much as to say about the human condition that people would like, but it's a movie that's just, well, it's like Reservoir Dogs. When Reservoir Dogs came out, people were just blown away by Quentin Tarantino and his writing and his directorial power, and then Pulp Fiction came out and blew everybody away. Drive is a lot like that,
So his next one's going to be great.
Yeah, well, his next one's supposed to be about boxing in Thailand or something.
That's going to be good.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. Brian Gosling stars in that too, and he's a director to watch. I think he should have been nominated for Drive, and Drive was my personal favorite film of the year, and I think that movie should have been nominated all over the place here. So.
Well, that leaves us with Best Picture, and we've talked about it quite a few. I liked how you sprinkled in the explanations of what these movies were as we went along. So we know The Artist, the silent movie, The Descendants with George Clooney, and with the main character, not the lead character, but the main character is in a coma and doesn't speak.
Yeah,
because everything revolves around that one person.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, which surprises me because, from what I understand, it's screams at every turn Oscar bait.
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close has no business being on this list. If it wasn't for the Pirates film, which I thought was the worst film of the year, this would have made it. It was that bad. It's that bad.
Oh wow!
It's a movie about and the problem is it deals with the sensitive subject matter that's still raw to a lot of people. It deals with September 11th, but it does so in such an annoying way, and it does so in such a way that just is, it's practically poking fingers in your eyes, getting you to tear up.
It's so manipulative.
I don't mind being manipulated in movies. I love it when a movie takes
you're manipulated in every movie you go to.
Every film
either they're doing it poorly or they're doing it magnificently.
Exactly. When you can see the strings and you know that they're jacking with you, that's when it's done poorly. And you could see the strings on this like it's a damn puppet show. It's on the surface, it sounds like an interesting story. It's about this little boy. He's trying to understand what happened. He's trying to come to terms with his dad's death. He finds this key in his dad's closet, doesn't know where it goes to, and he goes all over New York City trying to find it and trying to find out where it goes to.
And meets these interesting people along
and meets
the way.
The characters along the way. And it's kind of this tapestry of New York. And I get that. That's what the movie wants to be about. But what it winds up being about is about this really annoying, near clinically depressed / insane kid going around New York annoying people to death. And the kid either is
just described my entire childhood. But that's what what it seems like is that and they kind of put the dad on a pedestal.
Yeah.
He seems like the best dad in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So they hired Tom Hanks.
Yeah, who wouldn't want to be Tom Hanks's kid?
And so and then
or Sandra Bullock's kid.
Yeah,
and they're married. So they would make this perfect little Stepford child. But he's not. He's obviously got mental problems. I think
those two should be in. We need to talk about Kevin.
Exactly.
That would be amazing.
That would have been interesting.
But it just seems like this one, because I want to make sure we get to. We've talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it seems like this one seems a little manipulative. especially on a subject of 9/11 that's
You
that's
can't-
still close.
Yeah, the
Maybe in 15 more years.
maybe the one movie that I think that has actually kind of touched on it in the best way is The 25th Hour by Spike Lee. That's a really great movie about 9/11, even though it doesn't talk about 9/11 directly. It talks about all the subsidiary issues of it. It's a great film, and much better than this one.
The one movie on this list that you have
I haven't
not seen
The
is
Help,
The
so I
Help.
can't comment on it. But a lot of people love The Help.
It's a lot of middle class.
It's probably the most universally loved on this list.
Red state, blue state, everybody.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's the feel good
yeah,
movie of
I
the
think
summer.
a lot of people love The Help, and so I think that they kind of had to put it here.
Hugo, which definitely deserves to be
Magnificent film, deserves to be there. So
Midnight,
so
Midnight
it's
in Paris. Then Moneyball.
I think Moneyball absolutely deserves to be on here.
Really?
I know it seems like a trite subject, but it's just really well written. I think it is well acted, even though I don't.
It's definitely well acted.
I don't think the performances rise to that great level. I think it's well directed. I think it deserves to be on here. I think it's a good film.
Oh, and Tree of Life. Which
Tree of
you
Life is
said
amazing
Top
and just
three.
totally deserves to be on here.
And
War
one we
Horse.
we haven't talked about at all.
War Horse, yeah.
Which I thought was the better of the two Spielberg movies.
Yeah, it was.
I did not like Tintin.
I love Tintin, but I could see why people wouldn't like it.
I thought, it was a little. I guess it's a little too European for me.
Maybe.
Because they have a different style of comedy. They've got a different style. I didn't think it was that funny.
Well,
I didn't think it was that. They go, it's the next Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
I did not think that at
Yeah,
all.
well, but you have to admit that one scene where they're going through the city and it doesn't
sure,
cut.
but that's cool.
Yeah.
But it's I've seen that in bad movies.
I really liked Tintin. I could see why people wouldn't like it. It is a character that we in the States don't understand that well, don't know. So, of course, it's not going to be easy for us to dive into that.
But War Horse. That
is
was
great.
a damn good movie.
War Horse is a damn good movie. It's
Prepare to cry.
Yeah, it's a wonderful. Yeah, bring handkerchiefs. Bring Kleenex.
My wife's like, she's glad that we're not seeing it again so soon because
Yeah.
she's a big animal lover, so she really did. She was crying. I mean, we were all crying throughout the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like two spots where you cry.
Yeah.
It's like every 10 minutes, legitimately and well earned and honest. We talked about manipulating.
Yeah. Spielberg is the master at that. He knows how to make a film that could get right to your heart. And War Horse is amazing. I mean, we've talked about it before on the podcast, but this is it's a story of World War I seen through the eyes of this horse that goes through all these various owners.
It's the Forrest Gump of horses.
Basically, yeah. And
Except no famous people.
Yeah, it's just a great film, and that's another guy who was probably snubbed for best director is Spielberg. But Spielberg's won and been nominated for so many times. It's almost like, well, yeah. But this, and if you want to look at it from an empirical point of view, it's not really anything he hasn't done before in a movie. It doesn't.
Yeah,
I mean,
he didn't tread new ground.
Yeah, he just does it extremely, extremely well, and so I could see how people could kind of not nominate him for that. But it is an amazing movie, and it does deserve to be on here.
Now there's 9 this year, which is one.
I thought there was going to be a full 10, but
I thought there was going to be about 7 or 8. I didn't
Yeah.
think there was because I'm looking at this and like I said, I don't know about The Help. People liked it. I don't think The Descendants necessarily needed to be there, and I don't think Moneyball needed to be there. What was some of the snubs?
Well, Drive.
Well, Drive. So besides the mandatory Drive nomination,
Yeah, you know what
which was
movies-
a great movie. I mean, I like 50-50.
Yeah, 50-50 is wonderful. 50-50 is hilarious. They probably should have been nominated for. I mean, it was nominated for screen. No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't nominated for anything.
It wasn't nominated for
and
anything.
It was
That's
the
right.
greatest. I think that should have got a screenplay.
And that's
award.
those are two great performances. Seth Rogen for supporting. I could put him there, but you got to admit Joseph Gordon-Levitt for best actor.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
He should have been great. He should have been nominated. There's a movie that's not on this list, and we briefly talked about it in this podcast. But I think if you wanted to take a snapshot of 2011, I think Rise of the Planet of the Apes is it. I think the themes of the film, the technology of the film, the story, the medical issues that are in the film. If you want to take a snapshot of where we are, weirdly enough, and I've always thought this, genre films do it better than these so-called major dramas. Genre films tell us better who we are as a society than any other kind of movie. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is that movie for 2011.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. It was one of those movies that, again, I wasn't expecting a lot. I mean, we talked about it, and we were excited about it, but I also was excited about the Harrison Ford, Daniel Craig, Cowboys and Aliens, and that one kind of fell like a gilded turd. But there were some things in. But you're right, with the Planet of the Apes as a well-rounded movie, it was shocking because my wife, she likes science fiction, but she doesn't recommend a lot of movies.
Yeah,
she made her 55-year-old friend that she's in the book club with go see it, and she, who's not a genre person, loved it.
Yeah.
Was just amazed by it.
And, it again, like I touched on before, with all the Occupy Wall Street and all the protests that were going on later in the year, it's kind of a movie about that. It's about it a lot about where the middle class is. I mean, we're not a bunch of apes, but we feel persecuted, and it's just weird how it managed to touch the pulse of America.
I think we're about 10 to 15 more years away before maybe genre films be more accepted, because you have to think of all the people in the 80s, because I think the genre films, though they were made before then, but they really came into their own. Spielberg brought in E.T.
Yeah, well, when
those people are getting older, because right now it's 60 is the average age of a Academy member. So if we can get those nerds that are like the genre stuff.
I've always been of the idea that the Academy shouldn't do Best Picture stuff of the stuff the year before. They should wait 10 years and then go back and look at it from perspective.
Well, yeah.
And I know it's the big Hollywood thing. They want to bring out the stars. They want to bring all that. But I don't think you get a good idea of what a movie represents until you look at it with some distance. If you think about the 80s, and these aren't bad films. When you think about the 80s, you don't think about Gandhi. You don't think about Terms of Endearment. You don't think about the movies that normally won Best Picture, with the exception of maybe Platoon. You think about Raiders. You think about E.T. You think about Predator or RoboCop. You think of the genre.
Not everybody thinks of Predator and RoboCop. That's a little more of the nerd coming through. But those were good movies for their genre. But
I don't think. Looking on this list, the only one that's
which one are you going to remember in 5 years?
Which one are you going to remember in 5 years? And there might be two. There might be Hugo and
you're gonna remember
the Tree of Life.
You're going to remember the artist like we remember,
and Warhorse probably.
I think we're going to remember the artist like we remember Roberto Benigni.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that he's done anything since then, but we all know the crazy guy jumping up and winning, and he did a somewhat unoffensive movie.
It's a good film, enjoyable film, and I don't think it's going to make the test of time. Yeah. I think that the best way to look at movies is through perspective, and look at the films that came out 10 years ago, and right now the ones that popped in my head weren't they were nominated at the time with Lord of the Rings films, but A Beautiful Mind won in 2001, and the Fellowship of the Ring lost. But what movies people are gonna remember?
I remember A Beautiful Mind because that was awesome. But you do have a point. There are some movies where they win and you go, really? They did?
Yeah.
But it's difficult to go back to 10 years because who the hell cares?
Yeah, I know.
But also this is what it's about.
Right.
It's about people arguing with each other.
Yeah.
And talking about movies.
And that is the goal of the Oscars and awards season. And if it gets people talking about movies, I'm all for it.
Well, we've been talking movies. I appreciate you being here. We'll see you for the summer.
All right.
And of course, the door is always open. Alan can be found at Ain't It Cool News.
Yep.
Go back and read the reviews of all these movies,
with the exception of The Help. And I don't think I wrote one for Extremely Loud either. So
no, you did preface the fact that you wrote a little bit about why you were not.
Yeah,
because you were so upset about it.
Yeah.
And the Houston Film Critics Society, we appreciate it. We look forward to a great year this year.
Yep.
A lot of good movies coming out. We won't talk about it now, but we got a lot of great movies coming for 2012.
Yep.
We'll tune in this on the 26th, and then we'll come back and see how well you did.
All right.
We'll post it online. We'll see if you
that's
actually
right.
know your stuff.
The scorecard.
All right. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Once again, I want to thank Alan for giving his perspective on the movies. It's always great talking to Alan about movies. Watch the Oscars this Sunday. Billy Crystal's back. I hope he does a great job. Anytime you have any questions or comments, you can email me, Craig at SpeakerCraigPrice.com. Go to the website, RealityCheckPodcast.com, and subscribe to the newsletter, and you will find out who's going to be coming up in the weeks ahead. Thank you for listening.